Now in this tutorial for St. Matthew, we're going to show you how we import liturgy from the bulletin into ProPresenter 3. So first of all, we're going to go to the server, just the church icon here. We're going to go to the bulletin shortcut, 2011 bulletins, and we're doing the regular, there's the blended. Here's the regular bulletin. We're going to open that up with OpenOffice. There it is. Now we're going to File, Save As, and we're going to save it to the desktop. And we're going to save it as a text file because ProPresenter imports text files. Save. So that's done. So we're going to Command Q to quit OpenOffice. Clean up our screen here. Open up the bulletin text file. There it is. Now it has all the text from all the announcements and everything else. There's hymn 401. And here's our call to worship. And our psalm. And our confession. And our forgiveness. And then we have a hymn which we'll get through the normal hymn process. So we're going to copy it. We're going to select all this. So I'm using the right mouse. I'm holding it down as I move up. Then I'm going to do Command C to copy. And then Command N to start a new document. Then I'm going to do Command V to paste it. So there it all is. And then I'm going to save it right away and give it a title. April 3rd Liturgy. Now the call to worship, we don't need that title on there. So we're going to bring that to the top. We do need to indicate who's saying what. So the M is for minister and C is for congregation. Double space in between so that it separates the slides. Here's the psalm. Now for psalms, I like to have one slide that shows the what the psalm is that we're doing. And I get, because screen space is at a premium, I get rid of all extra wording or notations. They can see that in the bulletin if they want it. So then I have to double check with the bulletin here to make sure the breaks. Here's the M and the C. So I'm going to go through and put all the M's and C's and double spaces in there. And just hold on, I'll be right back. Okay, now we're done at the end of the psalm. So now we're at the prayer. So it's a long prayer and silent meditation. Usually we try not to have so much text of the prayer on the screen. Since pastor's the only one speaking, the people can follow along by listening to him. So we're just going to add prayer. And then silent meditation. Then the next slide will be the minister concluding the prayer and then the congregational response. Then we get to do the forgiveness, so we get rid of the title and do the M's and the C's again. Oops. Now I'm going to go through and I'm going to double check that the lines match the bulletin so that I got my M's and the C's right. Because sometimes the text will wrap over and where I think it's another M and or C, it's actually a continuation of the previous one. Okay, it looks good, so I'm going to save it. Exit out of there. I'm going to keep the bulletin open because I may need that later. Go back to ProPresenter. And I'm going to new presentation from file. There's my liturgy file. Choose that and I'm putting it in the playlist and I'm going to continue. And there it's at the top of the playlist again, so I'm going to move it down where it belongs after the hymn. And there it is. Whoa, look at that. It's nice and big, but it's all centered. And we know that centered is for songs, so we're going to make it left justified. And we're going to make it smaller because what the words that pass, the text that pastor speaks should be at 60, and it should be regular, not bold. And wait, so we're going to apply all. So now we're going to go through and we're going to edit, and we're going to select by holding down the mouse key and moving over. Then I'm going to hit Command B for bolding, and I'm going to drop down to 78. And I don't like how this is balanced, so I'm going to hit return right there. Now, some people might say, well, why didn't you just make it all bold and 78 instead of making it all the 60 and regular? Because when you bold it, when you go to this drop-down menu, it always starts at where you are and goes up, and you don't have to scroll. If I was to have it all at 78 and then I'd want to change pastor's section down to 60, I'd have to scroll to get to 60. See, for example, if I want to change this to 78, I have to scroll up to 60, so I'm just saving mouse clicks. Here's the psalm. Because it's just a psalm and it's not something they're going to read, I'm going to put it in the center so they don't start to read or think that they're supposed to say Psalm 42. And here we go, and we're going to continue on bolding and enlarging the text of what the congregation sees, or congregation says. Oh, here we have a error. Okay, right here. These weird characters in here. Sometimes if there's dashes or quotation marks or hyphens, it doesn't import properly, and is the case here. So I look in the bulletin and I see that this is a dash that belongs in here. So put that in there. Oh, and here, what's this rock one? This is supposed to be quotes. And this is supposed to be quotes. Oh, now this we have to watch out for. This is in the bottom of the screen. And while on this editing window, it's there and you can see it. If you go to show, it's not there. So that means this doesn't all fit. So I have a choice. Either I can take the last two lines here and put it on a new slide, or I can take this whole section and put it on a new slide. My preference is to take the whole section, and I'm going to do Command X. Then I'm going to add a slide. And there it is. I'm going to paste it in there. And then, of course, I have to bold it and make it 78. The reason why I did it this way is because then the congregation can continue flowing the reading rather than being broken up. Sometimes the person who's advancing the slide isn't always on time, and then it's particularly if it's only one sentence like this, annoying that it's broken up into two slides. So we're going to move on. Oh, more problems here. This is another quote section. And next. Okay, prayer and silent meditation. Whenever we have silent meditation, I usually make that italicized so that we do Command I for that. And I'm going to give a little gap there between them because pastor says a prayer and then there's silent meditation. Here's the conclusion of the prayer section. And now we're announcement of forgiveness. I want to make sure that it'll show up. Yep, it shows up over there. Now this is kind of long, but I do this because the people are following along and I want it to keep flowing. And now we're at the end, so we're going to hit done. And I'm going to save it. Always save frequently. Okay, after this we go to hymn 194. So, This concludes the tutorial on showing you how to import a liturgy section into ProPresenter 3.